everyone. I'm Jennifer Chu, the Center for Asian American Media's Membership and Donor Relations Manager. On behalf of CAM's team, thank you for joining us at CAMFest 2021. Before we get started, I'd like to acknowledge the wonderful community groups and organizations that helped us promote today's program and our other CAMFest 2021 programs and events. For today's conversation, I'd like to thank the Asian Pacific Islander Cultural Center, the Bay Area Video Coalition. I encourage you to check out their programs and events. CAMFest 2021 and CAM's other year-end programs and events would not be possible without the support of our wonderful community of supporters throughout the world, including people like you. You can help support diverse and authentic Asian American stories by making a donation or joining as a CAM member at CAM's website, caamedia.org. For a limited time, new members who join at the friend or supporter level can save 15% using the promo code CELEBRATESTORIES. The program you just watched is the Legacy and Lineage Shorts program, which is presented by our friends at the Asian Pacific Islander Cultural Center and features and profiles the journeys of several dynamic and amazing Asian American community artists. If you haven't watched these films yet, I encourage you to do so before the festival ends on May 23rd at our website. We are honored to be joined by some of the artists profiled in the series for our conversation today. With that, please welcome Francis Wong, Isabelle Thuy Pelaud, and Sami See. Hi, y'all. How's it going? Happy APEC Heritage Month. Thank you for joining us. Yeah, really thrilled to have this conversation with you all, and just watching each of your films was amazing, and I learned more about each of you and your work and your lives, so really fascinating. So I'm going to start with a few questions for all of you, and then we'll transition into a few individual questions. But to start off, I'd like to ask, how were you involved with the creation of the film about you? Like in terms of with APEC and also in partnership with the videographer and the editor of the film. Who wants to start?
Sure, I'll start.
Okay, great. Thanks, Francis.
Yeah. Well, to me, it's just like they said, "Oh, we'd like to interview you," and then I says, "Whoa!" And then we kind of picked out a location, in Chinatown, and then we went and shot it. And actually, Genny and I shot our interviews on the same day, so that was kind of fun, and I think you can see some back and forth between Genny's and my film. And so, yeah, so that was basically it. And then I provided some of the music. So that was nice to that my music could be in the soundtrack for it. And so I liked the way they kind of made my music kind of a character in the piece. So it seemed very appropriate. So I loved it.
Great. Who would like to go next? Sami?
Sure. So I have had the great privilege of working with Laura Paul over the past probably like 5 or 6 years now through their work at Asian Pacific Islander Cultural Center. And I really just have developed a lot of trust and gratitude and good relationship for the work that they do through that org. And they've really supported me as an emerging artist. And so when they invited me to do this, I said, yeah, let's go. Like, I'm down. And they introduced me to Willis and Diana. And, they were so open about what they wanted to capture. And so working with them felt really synchronistic and easy and fun. And I remember on the very first day that Willis and Diana came to the Kapua Rising mural, which is at 5th and Bryant in South of Market in San Francisco. I learned then that Willis, he wasn't super fond of heights. So when I showed him that we had to lean this rickety ladder against the side of a building and climb onto a slanted roof to get to, the mural and haul all of our camera gear up there to shoot the doc. I think there was this moment where of camaraderie where we all realized we were this is kind of like a full contact sport documentary. So I feel like everyone, in that way we were all really, just journeying together and they were all in to tell this story and take a look at the symbols in the mural and, enjoy a beautiful San Francisco day together. So I had a really good experience and they all showed a lot of love and were great to work with.
Oh, that's great. Oh, what a great story. Isabelle?
Yes, well, just I received an email from Diana and then invited me to participate in this, and I was very honored. I mean, I spent a lot of my time to promote other writers, and I've been writing on my own without really telling anybody for some time, and it was wonderful to actually center that aspect of my practice because it's quite private. And the crew came to my house for a few hours and asked me questions, and that I submitted some photograph before they came here, and that's about it. Yeah.
Oh, fabulous! Well, thank you all for sharing how you got involved and how the process was in developing your piece. And actually, I realized that I didn't ask you all to introduce yourself, your work, and tell the audience more about your work, because I don't want to assume that everybody watching is familiar. So if you wouldn't mind just sharing really briefly about, I know you've already shared bits and pieces already, but any more that you want to add and talk about what you've already shared about who you are and your artistic practice and whatnot. So who would like to go first?
I'll go first.
Sammy?
Yeah. So I am Sami See. I am a muralist, currently based in Oakland, California, unceded Lisjan Ohlone territory. I'm from San Francisco, California, and I am a multimedia artist and muralist, and just honored to be a part of this beautiful series amongst incredible artist activists. I consider myself an artist activist that focuses quite a bit on mental health in my work, and it's a big theme of my creative practice. So it's a little bit about me.
Great. Who would like to go next?
Yeah, I'm Francis Wong, and I play the saxophone, I write music, and I work in a community. So that's kind of, I call myself a community worker, and in the sense that just participating in things that need to be done. We need to run a museum in the community, I'm there. We need to run the cultural center, I'm there to help. And if there's protests, if there's organizing to be done, I'm part of that. So I just think about my own practice as that it's kind of interlinked. And so, I've been doing this for, I don't know, almost 50 years. And I just feel like we're very blessed to be able to continue to, do the work. And similar to what Isabelle mentioned, I think of myself more as a behind the scenes person, but it's nice when I can step forward and use music to kind of represent, I guess, the tip of the iceberg.
Fantastic. And then Isabelle?
Yes, yes. Well, Isabelle Thuy Pelaud, just like Francis and Sami, I'm an artist and an activist, and Francis and I are colleagues to Western State in Jamaican Studies. Um, and yes, just like both of them, I work as a writer. I mean, I've always written poetry, stories, as long as I can remember. But in the 90s, when we wanted to present as Vietnamese American want to be poet or writer, there was no forum to present our work. So that's why I started to get involved in a group to organize panels and events for Vietnamese American writers. And I continue to do this, not so much for myself, but for other writers and especially the next generations. And then also to create material for people to understand and teach actually Vietnamese American literature. But now I've, half of my day almost is taken writing my story as a creative writer.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you so much for letting back up and tell the audience about yourselves. I really appreciate that. So I think following up on something that you all have mentioned is this idea of being activists or being able to use your platforms and your work as storytellers, I think, in different ways to help move forward different important conversations and ideas and that are important to you. So can you tell me how you came to this understanding of your practice and kind of your work and vision for your work within the community and within other communities and just the world? I'd like to start. Francis? Yeah.
Yeah, I'll start. Well, I was involved in the Asian American consciousness movement, of the 70s, and at the time we were doing a lot of community organizing. We were organizing on campus, doing different things. We were involved in, I don't know, trying to fight apartheid in South Africa, but we were also trying to fight for ethnic studies and different things. But one thing that I noticed at the time was that we didn't have very many books to read about ourselves, and we didn't have very much music. Maybe we had like a couple of albums, because there was Nobuko's album, and then there was maybe Russell Baba, maybe just a couple of albums. So we just didn't have very much visibility, in terms as leaders in music. And so John Jang and I kind of decided that we would we kind of have to, what's that word? In the civil rights movement, they have this thing, if it's going to be, it's up to me, So we had to kind of own our musical ability and see that we could contribute that way. And so that's how we started to try to be visible in different issues through our music, because we were trying to show solidarity, because a lot of Black artists were doing that, a lot of Latino artists, American Indian artists, and we wanted to say, well, we need to be up there too and be visible. We have music, we have stories, and that we have something to say. So that's kind of how I got started.
Great. Okay. Thanks for sharing. Who wants to go next?
Well,
Sammy? Yeah, Isabelle.
Go ahead.
So my arrival at the practice of using art as a tool for social change started pretty early on in life, but in a very personal manner, when I, started to feel that when I made art, that it gave me the power to design a world that looked different than the one that I was living in, and where I gave myself agency to imagine solutions to problems, of pain and suffering and grief. And that became my way of coping. And, you know, as a young person, I struggled quite a bit with mental health challenges, depression, anxiety, and found that making art was a way not only to heal my own self and understand the world around me, but to also connect with other people who were sharing those experiences and connect to a larger story of how systems, how histories, how our personal narratives are all compounded to create this intricate web that creates this very unique environment for our mental health and our physical health to all, you know, exist. And so, you know, I started to develop my creative skills, and it brought me, you know, luckily being born and raised in the Bay Area, it brought me to the very rich tradition and history of and culture of artist activists who became my teachers. You know, seeing the beautiful murals in the Mission and seeing, you know, graffiti artists constantly, you know, creating works and demanding space and demanding that their stories be heard, really put into context the power of public art as a tool for, you know, reclaiming public space as a canvas for the political and social issues of our time. And so I, you know, was just lucky to find a small piece in this long, you know, lineage of public arts, which has always been art for the people and has always been about elevating social issues so that we can organize together, build resilience, and, you know, design the world in a more equitable way.
Yes, and then for me, I'm still struggling, although, you know, I think my name is out there a little bit, but I'm still struggling of thinking this is my place to create and to speak and to say my piece. And I would not even dare to think about doing it if it was for the contribution of the civil rights movements and Asian Americanness, right? And with actually the institutionalizations of ethnic studies and the pioneers of Vietnamese American writers before me. Yes, but you know, these questions, I mean, I'm thinking of also what happened in Atlanta, and then when I was asked to come and speak for to present a panel for Divan from She Was No Master, a group of Vietnamese American poets and writers and women. And I started by saying, I never feel it's my place to speak. So that's why I'm always in the background and I'm really not really speaking up very much. You don't see me speaking. But that day I said, you know, this is my place. This is my space. And not only for me, but also maybe to inspire other women, Asian American women, to speak up. Because if somebody like me cannot do it and still hold back by it, you know, how can I expect my students to do or other women to do so? And because when we quiet, more violence continue. And in terms of me personally, although in my art and my stories, I talked about the human cost of immigrations, being refugees, a woman, person of colors. You know, there's this article that came up in the Washington Post to speak about me going from manicure to professor, and there's this wonderful modern minorities. And I want to make sure I tell my story out in an honest way, so that I get to tell my own story in my own way and not by be framed by somebody else who kind of just look at what seems to be and it's not quite the way I perceive it. So I feel like I have a responsibility through my story to have a social impact. So we used to say, you know, the personal is political, right, in the 60s and 70s, and I believe today is still the case.
Wow. Okay. Well, thank you all so much for sharing your journey of how you of arriving at or just owning your power and your kind of your place and taking charge of it and demanding this. We have to, and we have to take control of that narrative. And I really appreciate all the work that each of you do to do that. So unfortunately, I think we're basically almost completely out of time. So I think probably like to do, and unfortunately, I wish we could continue this conversation. It's been so fascinating. But we'll just wrap it up with last question. How can our those watching continue to connect with you and your work and learn more about what's coming up next for you? And so we'll start with Isabelle.
Thank you. I'll be quick. I'm just, encourage everyone to go to divan.org, right? Because it's not just about me. It's about, Vietnamese American cultural production. That's Vietnamese cultural productions. And here, if people want to know, to be inspired by, many writers and many stories, this is really the place to go. So I really encourage everybody to go there, and especially the bookshelf. We have over 100 books we're recommending. And then if you become a member, then you can have a specific reading list and a guide for readings and the accented show and access to more, guidelines about how to navigate and how to pick which books to read and stories. And also we're doing workshops to encourage young writers to write and support them. So just go to divan.org.
Great, thank you, Isabelle. Francis next.
Sure. So I just put that out. Follow me on Instagram, and that's the one I pay the most attention to, because I'm not particularly all that savvy with social media, but it is easier. I can focus on one thing there, and you can keep track of what I'm doing. But I try to be very supportive of a lot of things. So things that I do in terms of support of other artists come through my page, and I've also been doing some things on the Chinatown Shorts Instagram since last month was National Jazz Appreciation Month. So, but anyway, follow me on Instagram.
Great. And Sammy.
I follow you on Instagram. You can also connect with me on social media. I'm on Twitter and Instagram at Sami See Art. And I'll be releasing some new projects in this summer. And so you can follow me there. I'm actually doing a new mural collaboration with the Beibes, who I talked about in the documentary, and all local women's muralist group. So follow me and see what it looks like to have a mural produced. And it would be great to stay connected with all of y'all there.
Well, on behalf of everyone at CAM and everyone attending campus, thank you so much for making the time and space, for being with me today, and just for everything that you do in the community and with your arts practice. Really appreciate it, and I'm really looking forward to seeing more of your work, each of you, and everything that you do out there. So thanks again. Take care, stay safe, connected, and we'll see you later.
Bye.
Have a great day. Bye. Well, thank you so much for joining our Q&A with the featured artists of the Legacy and Lineage Shorts program. Please watch these films before the end of CAMFest on May 23rd, and definitely check out our website, camfest.com, for more. Really appreciate you. Happy APA Heritage Month, and take care. Thanks.